Hi everybody, thank you for joining us and welcome to our webinar today. I hope that you can hear me. So let's just do a quick sound check. Let's make sure that the audio is working correctly. If you could just confirm that you can hear me in the chat box, which many of you have already found. I can see down there on the right-hand side of the screen. Thank you very much. Wonderful. I hope that you can hear me, and we are about to get started. We are about to get started with our webinar presentation. I hope that you can hear me. My name is Gareth Dyke. The audio on this presentation should be working well. This is a free webinar that we are presenting in collaboration with our colleagues at Bentham Science. So this is a diffusion editing presentation in collaboration with our colleagues at Bentham Science. I also hope that you can see the slide on the screen and that we are all set to go. I will just wait for a few more minutes to give more colleagues the chance to join us here in the webinar room. Let me check again that the sound is working. If you can hear me, please write into the chat box that the audio is working and that all is well. Gareth Dyke is my name. This presentation is entitled Tips and Tricks for Working from Home. We hope that based on our experience working from home, managing effective research remotely, we will be able to help you as researchers, as academics, be as effective as possible as you work from home. As I already mentioned, this is a joint presentation between Bentham Science and Diffusion Editing. Thank you once again for joining us. Let me get started with our presentation today by giving you a little bit of information about my background. I'm Gareth Dyke. I'm an educator, a researcher, a trainer. I've worked for a number of years at a range of different universities around the world. University College Dublin, we'll talk about that in a minute. Now I work publishing articles and training people like yourselves, researchers, academics all over the world, how to write and be effective in academic publishing. Tips and tricks for effective writing and publishing and managing the publication process. So let me say that if you enjoy this presentation today, you can jump back onto the Bentham Science website. You can sign up for more because we plan a whole series. 12 are scheduled, so one a month for the next year. You can join us, you can gain information, you can get access to content to help you be effective writing and publishing your own work. You can find out more information about my background if you're interested. Here's some links on this slide. In the presentation today, as we move through the content that we're going to present to you about working from home, tips and tricks for working from home, feel free to hit the speak button down there on the right-hand side of the webinar panel, or indeed type questions into the chat box if you would like to interact with me as we go through this presentation. I love it when people interact with me in these webinars. I love the feedback and questions that colleagues often have. So please feel free to do that as we get started with our presentation today. Now, I know from my own academic experience, I worked for almost 15 years as a full-time academic at a range of different universities, as we've seen how difficult and tricky it is to adapt yourself to working from home. For many years, I worked in Ireland, so you can hear my accent, probably my English accent sounds a little bit Irish, even though I'm an English guy. I worked in Dublin at University College Dublin in an office, and I found it really hard, really difficult to motivate and get any work done at home. I would often, indeed, if I wanted to work on academic stuff, at the weekend, get on a train, travel across the city, and sit in my office on the other side of town in order to get that work done. I was in an office working mentality. I developed an office working mindset, and that was the way I worked. And so when in 2015, I moved to Hungary with my family and started working from home, it was difficult, very difficult for me to develop the right mindset, the right skill set to be effective working from home. I've been doing it now since 2015. So if you hear background noise, if you hear kids shouting in the background, that's because I'm at home. I've been doing it effectively. I transitioned from being a researcher based in a university office setting and being unable to work outside of that office setting to then working from home in 2015. So I hope that my experiences, what I've learned from this transition, from this experience, I hope that I can pass on some of the skills and tricks and things that I've learned to do to you in this presentation today. That's the goal. I have personal experience doing this, and I remember the moment, in fact, when I started to think about how I would be effective working from home, sitting on the steps outside of our house, nowhere to go, just working at home. I thought about strategies to be effective as a home worker. And at that point, I started to think, I have to earn money. I have to get papers written. I have to be effective. I have to develop my skills as an editor and as a writer. So I started to prioritize. And that's the key skill that we're going to talk about in this presentation today. I call it the follow the money method. Even though it's not necessarily about money, it's prioritizing tasks in your working life in order to be as effective as possible and dealing with those tasks that are most important for your career, or in my case at the time, for earning money. So prioritizing in a different setting, in a working from home setting, can be difficult. I know we're going to talk about strategies and approaches to deal with that and be effective at doing this kind of thing in this presentation today. So you might be thinking, why should I listen to this presentation? Why am I going to sit here, listen to this guy talking to me for the next 40 minutes or so? Well, these are the things that we're going to talk about in this presentation today. Firstly, why working from home is hard. And I'm sure that you don't need me to tell you why it's difficult to work from home. You're experiencing it at the moment, but we'll just talk about this briefly at the start of this presentation today. We're then going to talk about the more important content, tips and tricks that you can, I hope, apply in your working life to be more effective. And of course, the point of all of this training that we provide with our colleagues at Bentham Science is to help you be more effective, not just in your working life, in this presentation, home working academics, but also when you have to write and publish and get your work into those leading academic journals. So the whole point of this training is to help you be more effective in your working and publishing life as researchers. Working from home, of course, is difficult. Working from home is hard. You don't need me to tell you. You're in your home environment. There are lots of distractions, lots of other things that you could be doing, that you want to be doing. So it is tricky. And if you're like me, as I was when I worked in Ireland, you get into the mindset that work, the office, is where you do your research, you do your writing, you do your work related stuff, and lots of people switch off when they come home, and so they find it hard, very difficult to develop the right mindset to get back into the groove of working in a home environment. One of the key tips, in fact, maybe the key tip that I will give you in this presentation, maybe you've already realized this from your working life, maybe this is not news, but the follow the money technique, this approach of time management and having a structure, a clear structure to your working day is critical. Prioritizing tasks, as we'll talk about in a minute as we move on through the content in this presentation today, but dealing with tasks that are the money tasks. Following the money and structuring your day is critical if you are to be effective in your new working environment, in your home working environment. So initially then, it's all about increasing your efficiency. And this is a common approach. We ask ourselves, how can we increase our efficiency each day, especially in a new or different working environment with lots of distractions? What kinds of things can you do to decrease stress and increase your working efficiency? Well, this is a fantastic approach. It's called the domino pizza method. This very famous international pizza chain developed a promise as part of their marketing strategies when they first started as a business. They said to people, we can take an order from you over the phone and we can cook and deliver your pizza within half an hour. That was the unique selling point of the Domino Pizza business at the time. You can use this approach in your working life by prioritizing, thinking about those pieces of time in your working day, those 30-minute Domino Pizza chunks of time in your working day, and how you can use that time to accomplish important tasks. Lots of people think, I've only got half an hour before I have to do this or before I have to do that in my home life. I'm not going to be able to get anything useful done. You can, if you prioritize and think about tasks and grade the kinds of pieces of work that you have to get done in the following way. Thinking about those that are important and urgent, those that are important but not urgent, and so on through the chart. So we look at tasks as academics. These are the money tasks, the follow the money tasks. These are the ones that are important and urgent, the ones that we need to get done, the ones that we can get done in those half an hour chunks of time, probably. So it's important to scale, organize, and prioritize, and think about what tasks you have, what different pieces of work, writing, administrative tasks, research tasks that you can get done in those periods of time. And I bet you that many of your tasks that stress you out, many of the things that you think about that you have to do, that you need to get done today, that are actually causing you stress as a researcher working at home, are falling probably into some of these urgent, not important, or indeed not urgent or important. So try with your to-do list, try with your approach, try with your techniques to research and to the kinds of things that you have to get done, to schedule and break down the tasks that you have on your list of things to do into these quadrants, and try to use effectively those pieces of time that you have working at home as effectively as possible. So this is quadrant 3, things that would be nice to do, but things that are not necessarily important or urgent. And these activities here in the bottom right-hand corner, these are the time-eating tasks that are neither important or urgent. So deal with stress, deal with time management by thinking about breaking down the kinds of tasks that you have to do each day into these sections on the presentation here. And of course, we think as academics that we have to get as much as possible done every day. But one really important technique that you can use, of course, is called the G.H. Hardy method. Hardy was a famous English mathematician. He actually only worked in his working life at Cambridge University for periods of intensive time in the morning. He kept his afternoons free for cricket. It's famously written about G.H. Hardy. What a lot of people do, what a lot of academics do, of course, is they do not do not necessarily they do not necessarily manage their time effectively. So what we need to think about when we put this kind of presentation together, when we start to think about being effective as academics, is not necessarily having to work the whole day, not necessarily having to work for 8 hours a day. There are times in the day when we will have the opportunity to work intensively. So you can apply this kind of approach to your working life, the Hardy approach, trying to work in more concentrated batches, pieces of time, rather than what you may have been used to doing at your university, and that's working, you know, for 8 hours a day or 9 hours a day in your office, for example. So this is important. This is very critical as an approach that you can try. At the same time, of course, like we always say to academics, we always say to people around the world that it should be getting easier for us as working academics, because of course we've got a lot more tools at our disposal than people would have had at their disposal in the past. Our ideas as researchers stay the same, but our tools are constantly changing. So another thing that you can do, if you're not already doing it, is as a researcher, make sure that you're aware of and are using the kinds of tools like EndNote, Mendeley, that will dramatically increase your research productivity. Don't spend time working on tasks like formatting references is probably a very good example of this, that you could be using software or other kinds of approaches to do for you. So that's something else that I would say about working from home as a technique. Reduce your stress, ladies and gentlemen, reduce your stress through time management by organization, by delegation, which is of course not always possible in an academic setting, and make sure you do small tasks to remain productive, especially in those domino pizza slices of time that we will have, that you will have now working at home. So don't fall into the trap of thinking, I've only got half an hour, I can't get anything useful done. Have a look at your organizational charts and try to knock off one or two of those tasks that would be possible to do in that small amount of time. I'm now going to give you, from my own experience over the last 5 years or so working from home, some tips that I hope will help you to be more productive. And some of them are obvious, like this one: ensure you have the right tools. You'll need, for example, strong, stable internet in order to access and remotely work effectively, especially if you're doing the kind of work that I'm doing, or if you need to talk to colleagues remotely. Many people at the same time are not aware of how to use those tasks appropriately. So make sure if you're using certain kinds of tools for remote work, you actually know how to use those tools effectively. I also would say that it's critically important to designate yourself a workspace. Doesn't matter if it's a corner of a table or an office or a whole attic space in your living environment. You need a space that you can call your working space, that you can go to when it's time to work, that you can go to when you're away. And people in your family then, your kids, your spouse, your partners, they know that you are working. I use music a lot, background music, radio, in order to be able to concentrate on the kinds of tasks that I need to accomplish. So you will have your own approaches for doing this, but try to develop a workspace, try to develop your own zone that you go into, even if it's for those short pieces of time that we've talked about that will enable you to get some work done as a researcher. Thirdly, take regular breaks. It's hugely important during the working day at home to do this, to do something different. Otherwise, you're always working, and you find yourself checking emails or checking your phone for hours and hours every day. You can literally be online and accessible to colleagues for, you know, almost the whole time that you're awake if you're not careful. So people have different approaches to this, but taking breaks, do something different, do the washing up, do the vacuuming, I don't know, but get away from your work and have a schedule when you do that. So you're switching off. And actually, I find that when you take breaks from writing or you take breaks from your research work, those are the times that you actually come up with ideas. You actually end up coming up with good things that you might want to work on in the future. Also, and here's a picture of me in case you were wondering what I look like. This is the kind of attire that I tend to wear when it was a bit colder than it is now here in Hungary. But you know, you're doing video conferences, you're doing webinars, you obviously don't need to be completely smartly dressed. You can be half smartly dressed, as you can see here in this photo of me. Look after yourself though. Try to take breaks, exercise. Mental exercise is important, because otherwise you suffer. You will end up suffering from what people call kind of cabin fever, where you're stuck in the same space, you're stuck in the same house for weeks, days, hours at a time. So it's important to take time to look after yourself when working from home. It's not selfish, it's important. It's very important to give yourself that space, to get the space that you need to think about your own stuff, to think about your own mental health. Basically, here's another trick, another tip, very, very useful when working from home, and that's to try to identify your superpower. And I call it a superpower because you want to spend time working in any environment, in the office, or now when you have limited chunks, limited pieces of productive time, to do what you're good at doing and not waste time on things that you might not necessarily be so good at. So for me, writing is something that I really enjoy to do. So I try to spend as much of my productive time at home working on my writing projects, because that's my superpower. I try to minimize the amount of time that I spend doing other stuff. So you can do this as well when you work from home. It's a different kind of environment. You know, try to do things in your productive time that you're actually good at, that you actually enjoy, because then you'll get to the end of the day and you'll feel like you've accomplished so much more. Now, as well, at home, away from the usual social contact that you might have with other colleagues in an office environment or a university environment, for example, you have the chance to network online and stay social. You should be doing this anyway as researchers, building your network, talking to collaborators over email, over various social media platforms. This is important for researchers, not just to stay connected with colleagues and collaborators, but also to build that mentorship network, as we call it, which is what you need to have when it comes time to select and write down the names of colleagues who will be suitable as peer reviewers, for example, for your articles. This is something that we're going to talk about in later presentations if you join us for one of our webinar presentations in the future. But networking, talking to colleagues, sending out copies of your abstracts, your titles, your research work to colleagues around the world. Now's the perfect time to network with people internationally, because of course they're also stuck at home, they're also working from home, they're also in front of their computers, in front of their tablets. Now you can reach out to colleagues, build collaborations, set up, organize those networks that you might need for peer review. One of the most obvious ways that you can use your network of international colleagues to your own advantage in the future. So networking and staying social is very important. I would also say, having worked as part of a remote team now for the last 5 or so years, that without that face-to-face contact that you do tend to get in your normal working life, if you make mistakes, if you make an error, own those mistakes. Own that, because these kinds of errors are emphasized by remote working. It's very easy to say something inadvertently over email or do something remotely that you would normally have the opportunity to just apologize for face-to-face with a colleague in a normal university or office working environment. So you have to own your mistakes. You have to be yourself, because these character flaws, these issues of remote working, team working will be emphasized by people working remotely. So own your mistakes is another one. And this one, I call it the Donald Trump method, the reverse Trump approach. You can be effective in your working life generally, take it from me, in my experience, if you under-promise, if you over-deliver. So tell people, don't be afraid of saying to people that I'm not going to be able to get that task done for another few days, because then they'll be surprised when you have the chance to get this done earlier than has been previously suggested. I see that somebody is asking for a joining link to this webinar. I'm afraid that as I'm presenting, I'm not sure that I can send that to you right now, but don't worry. What will happen at the end of this presentation is absolutely everybody who's registered for this, absolutely everybody that's registered for this, and including your colleague whose email address you've just sent me, will receive a video of this presentation. So you'll all get a link to a video of this presentation that you'll be able to watch as many times as you like again in the future. This is a great tip for remote working. Generally, if you under-promise and over-deliver, this can be a great tactic in order to be more effective, or at least be perceived to be more effective as an academic. This is what Trump does, of course. He says that something's not possible and then he achieves it. People are surprised. Sometimes it's called under-promising and over-delivering. Another tip that I learned working for a company for a number of years over the last period of time is, if possible, in remote working, it's a good tip to try to avoid video calls. Try to do most of your work, if you can, remotely over just audio, because if you get on a video call, as many people will know from personal bitter experience, appearance can be important, and obviously people are looking at you probably more closely than they would be in a normal working environment. So it's important to try to do this if you have to get on video calls. And again, make sure you know how to use your software, how to use your tools. You've got the right tools to do the job, but are you able to use those tools effectively? So many people, they get onto conference calls, they get onto video calls, and they're not quite sure how to do different things. They don't know how to share their screen. They don't know how to turn on the slides. They don't know how to switch on, the screen sharing stuff. So be aware and put the time in before you have to do this kind of work to be aware of the techniques that should be used and how to use your software. Very, very important. We have the opportunity as researchers working from home to actually, if we can, take more time to develop good ideas. This is a very important approach. I see that you're sending me another message about sending the link to your colleague. I'm afraid that as I'm presenting now, I physically can't do that, because I'd have to jump onto another piece of software in order to send the link. So I'm very sorry. And as I've mentioned already, everybody registered for this will get a video sent to them at the end. That's what's going to happen at the end of the presentation. So we are talking about motivation. We are talking about developing the confidence as researchers to be successful in our academic careers. Confidence and belief in your research, belief in your research work, in your publications, belief that your work is good and that it deserves to get published in an international journal is one of the keys to success. And we find, as we work with researchers in different countries around the world, that the way that people react perhaps to negative comments that might come back on their research can vary significantly depending on the part of the world that they're in. Many people in some places, America, Germany, the UK, for example, they get negative comments about their research. They react in a much more positive way to that rejection. They feel often that, the work is great. Maybe it's the reviewer's problem, that they didn't understand the brilliant work. They didn't understand the brilliant work. So this is something that is necessary to really that's something that's really important to think about as a researcher, like how you can develop those skills, as a researcher to develop your confidence and develop that level of self-belief in your work. Now, away from the office to a certain extent, working from home, you have the opportunity to be more effective and also to think about strategies to develop your confidence levels as researchers submitting your work to international journals. I would say also that when you start to work, when you start to think about putting together academic articles for submission to international journals, you can dramatically increase your productivity, increase your efficiency by thinking about preparing to write before you actually do start to write. Most academic authors, as you know, probably, maybe this is the approach that you often take in your own writing. Most academic researchers, they finish a piece of research and then they sit down and they start to write. And they don't think about where they're going to send the article, which journal they're going to send the article to. They don't think about the audience. They don't think about who the readers are going to be. You can dramatically increase your efficiency as a writer, as a research publishing academic by preparing to write. Identify your key message before you start to write. Think about who your audience are going to be. Which journal are you going to send your article to before you start to write? And the third thing to know is the structure. We will talk in detail about these different aspects, these different topics in our later webinar presentations, or indeed, if you're listening to this and you find this presentation to be interesting, informative, you can get in touch with us. You can get in touch with our colleagues at Bentham Science. We can provide tailored webinar presentations to you or your institution about and on specific topics, perhaps for students, perhaps for members of your research group, to help you be more effective in particular aspects of academic writing and academic communication. So we have a roadmap for successful academic writing. Things to do, things to think about before you put pen to paper, things to do before you even start to write. How you can sell yourself, how you can sell your message to an editor, how you can capture the attention of an academic editor, and how you can develop a clear structure for your academic writing. Message, audience, and structure are the three things to know about before you start to write. And of course, we can help you with training, effective writing. We can give you some key insights into effective writing to help you be more effective. Things that you can do in your academic writing that will make a huge difference. We've written hundreds of papers. We edit and process at our editorial offices hundreds and hundreds of articles each day. So it really is important to think about how training for you could turn decades of our experience into just days for you, to help you be as effective as possible in your academic career. So let's recap a little bit about what we've talked about in this presentation today. We've talked about two things mainly in this webinar presentation. We've talked firstly about why working from home is so hard. And you don't need me to tell you that, you're experiencing that for yourselves. But tips and tricks for being effective, things that you can do in your daily life, in your working life, to be more effective. I hope, from my experience, from our experience, we have provided you with some ideas, at least, some tricks that you can apply in your working life, in your current working environment, to be more effective as a researcher. And the point of all of this training is to help you be effective. It's to help you be as efficient and effective as possible as a home working academic. So I would like to say thank you very much for listening to this presentation today. As I mentioned at the start of the webinar, my name is Gareth Dyke. This is a webinar presentation that we've put together in collaboration with our colleagues at Bentham Science. We'd like to give you a discount, a special gift, special free gift discount code. Here it is on this slide. You can go to our website at diffusionediting.com. You can enter this discount code and you'll get a reduction on all of our editing and language services. If you found this webinar presentation to be interesting, to be informative, then I would encourage you to get in touch with our colleagues at Bentham Science, give feedback, provide suggestions for future training that we could provide to help you, your colleagues, your students, your research group, to be more effective in writing and publishing in English, because that's what we do. That's our expertise. We have a range of training events, webinar events that we've scheduled with Bentham Science. You can see all of those training events either on the Bentham Science website, the Bentham Science Twitter feed, follow us on Twitter, or look at our website. And please, we would encourage you to sign up, get involved, join us for our next training event. If anybody has questions or comments, then now is a very good time to type them into the box on the side of the webinar screen. I see that a very large number of colleagues have joined us today, so we're very grateful and we're very happy to see you all here. Please don't hesitate to get in touch with us through our websites, through our social media channels, and please, if there are questions or comments, now is your opportunity to put those into the chat box down there on the right hand side of the screen. Thank you for the kind comments. Thank you for the great feedback. I will say again that this is a webinar presentation brought to you by Bentham Science in collaboration with our academic training and editing company. We have a webinar discount that you can use for your editing work. If you choose to go to our website and enter that free gift discount, that's a thank you from us for your time today. And please do engage with Bentham Science, have a look at their website, enter your information, sign up for the other webinars that we've got planned, because this one, it's really a bit of fun at the start of our training series, working from home like we're all having to do it at the moment. Many of us will continue to work from home for a while. So I hope that the comments and tips that I've presented have been useful. And in the future, we'll get into some of the nuts and bolts, some of the training, some of the key insights that you need to know that you can use to dramatically increase your effectiveness as an English language communicator, and also writing up and getting your work published. So thank you once again for listening. Everybody will get a link in the next few hours to a recording of this presentation. So I'm going to sign off now and say thank you so much. Once again, have a great day wherever you're listening to this. Thank you so much.